Angelenos pass every single day and the disruption that caused in our city. I want to thank Angelenos for being informed, for following the directions, staying on the freeway, and most importantly, taking advantage of Metro. Trains increased, times were faster, and ridership was up 10%. As life gets back to normal over the next few days, I hope that Angelenos that participated and joined Metro and rode Metro maybe for the first time will understand what a convenience it is, and we will continue to use public transportation. Let me again just thank everyone who worked 24 hours a day to make this effort happen. Thank again our governor for his leadership, Senator, and of course, our Vice President. The White House made it clear from day one that they were going to do whatever it took in order to get Angelenos safe and life back to normal. And let me introduce now Senator Alex Padilla.
Thank you, Mayor Bass. When the fire first broke out last week on I-10, those of us who live and work anywhere near Los Angeles know just how significant this was, and we were braced for the worst. But I'm happy to be here today. It's Sunday before Thanksgiving, but we wouldn't have to wait till Thursday to give thanks. To give thanks for the opening before the Thanksgiving holiday of the I-10 freeway for folks who are working this week, folks who will be traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday, and to give thanks to all the workers who made this possible. We can't thank them enough. Workers at Caltrans, the contractors, workers at the different transportation agencies, the fire agencies, Cal Fire, LA Fire, others who tackled the fire last Sunday. But really a big thanks for the true cooperation and collaboration that happened to make this announcement possible. From the local level, Mayor Bass and her team, the state level, Governor Newsom, legislative leaders, departments and agencies, and of course at the federal level, the Biden-Harris administration, the Federal Highway Administration, and others. It took all of us coming together to make sure that this announcement would come in a matter of days, not in a matter of weeks or months. We don't have the specific final price tag on this, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less than $3 million, but the bottom line is this will be covered by federal funds, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed and signed a couple of years ago. The emergency funds are a result of this law, which is in and of itself a once-in-a-generation investment in our nation's infrastructure. And to piggyback on Mayor Bass's announcement, that law is not just responsible for funding the repair and reopening of I-10. The bipartisan infrastructure law is also a significant investment in public transit, which many commuters first experienced this last week. And we hope that they had such a good experience that it becomes a norm. It becomes a regular way to get to and from work. So again, to everybody involved, just a big thank you, thank you, thank you. And to Angelenos, welcome back to I-10. Now, just briefly, a few words in Spanish. Aunque hoy es domingo y esta semana celebramos el Día de Acción de Gracias, no tenemos que esperar hasta el jueves para dar las gracias a todos los trabajadores que han hecho este anuncio posible. Vamos a reabrir la carretera 10 aquí en Los Ángeles antes de lo que primero se esperaba. Estamos reabriendo no después de meses de construcción, no solo después de semanas de trabajo, sino días. En una semana se pudo reparar esta carretera en una manera segura para reabrir para todos los angelinos que trabajan, que utilizan esta carretera para llegar a donde van y que van a utilizar esta carretera para visitar a familiares y amistades este jueves para celebrar el Día de Acción de Gracias. Y solo fue posible por el liderazgo y colaboración de todos los líderes y las agencias involucradas a nivel federal, inclusive el apoyo de la administración Biden-Harris, a nivel estatal, especialmente la oficina del gobernador Newsom, y a nivel local, gracias al apoyo y participación del alcalde Karen Bass. And with that, let me introduce our quarterback this last week, our governor, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Thank you is the operative word. I'll be expressing a great deal of thanks. But first, let me just thank all of you, and I mean all the Angelenos out there that have had to suffer through the last week or so. You know, it was a week or so ago that we were here, not knowing if we would be here at this moment announcing the reopening for 6 more months. We were talking about replacing the structure. We were talking about this historic fire that took out roughly 100 columns, 4 or 5 particularly severely. We were talking about replacing a large portion of this freeway. Fortunately, after the test came back, we were in a position to make a subsequent announcement that it would be a 3 to 5 week period where we would retrofit and we'd shore this up. The good news is there was more good news. And as a consequence, we were able to double down on what we doubled down on previously, working with Griffith, who did an amazing job in the debris removal. They got us 2 or 3 days ahead of schedule, working with security crews and working with our partners locally. We were able to secure the kind of equipment that we needed to get on site to make sure that we were able to complement that with the man hours and woman hours, the labor hours, 10,000 labor hours all told to get us to this point ahead of schedule, 8 days to get this thing open and operational. And that means, if you're doing the math, that this thing opens tonight. It will be fully operational tomorrow. So, ready for the commute. Look, thanks to the team. Gloria and the D7 team, Tokes and our Secretary of Transportation, Tony, the head of Caltrans, Tom, engineers, and Ramon, our chief construction steward, to the incredible crew at Caltrans that worked overtime to make sure this worked, to building constructions unions, to the laborers, to the operating engineers, to the pile drivers, to the teamsters, to the electricians, and yes, to the carpenters that stepped up in every way, shape, or form. This was a union job, and they came in weeks and weeks ahead of schedule. And so you can be assured of one thing: safety first, quality, foundational in this effort. It wasn't just speed that we were after. We wanted to make sure this thing was safe. And after those safety inspections late last night and early this morning, we'll need about 8 or so hours once we all clear off, and we'll get this thing back and operational. The question, of course, for many of you will be, when will we see those permanent fixes secured? That will be over the course of many weeks, maybe a few months, but that won't significantly impact the commute or impact the 5 lanes that are now open in both directions. We will be able to do that with some episodic closures, likely at night, and they'll be for very short periods of time. We'll get that Alameda ramp open as quickly as possible. It's currently closed. It will not be open tomorrow. Lawrence between 10th and 14th Street will need a little bit more time to open up as well. We're mindful of the importance, the imperative of opening up those corridors, particularly for local businesses in the area. But this is a significant and a big day. And what was also significant and big in every way was the support of the federal administration. And I want to, before I introduce the Vice President, brag a little bit on Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, who was on the phone within hours of this original incident, to Mitch Landrieu, who was on the phone again this morning, checking in on this announcement, to Administrator Bott, who is once again here with us, who's been on the scene from the early days of this incident, who's been outstanding, to the President, who was in town talking about this just a few days ago and was on the phone well over a week ago checking in on this, and the Vice President, who's been checking in on a consistent and daily basis. You've heard that from Mayor Bass in their conversations, and we're just honored and privileged to have her here at this critical moment as well. Before, again, briefly introduce the Vice President, let me again brag on your mayor. It's all about partnership. It's all about making sure there's seamlessness in terms of the communication and the engagement. That's the only way these things work. And it would not have happened at the speed that it happened without her incredible support. And so on behalf of our team and Ann and my legal team, and yes, shout out to the lawyers that were incredibly instrumental in all of this, I just want to thank you, Madam Mayor, for your extraordinary leadership and support throughout this process. But again, this is a federal jurisdiction. It requires federal support at the highest levels of government. It requires not just passing glances and interest. It requires commitment and requires stewardship and leadership. And that is a good way to describe our partner at the federal level, one of our own. And that makes it a little bit easier for us. And it's my honor to introduce to you the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Governor. Well, as one of the first in a very long time Californians to be associated with the White House and living in Los Angeles, I was acutely aware of what closure of the 10 would mean for so many people. Hardworking people, families, many people who, when it was shut down, they can't work from home. Their work requires them to be present. And so I want to applaud the leadership of the governor, the mayor, the senator, and so many others. Caltrans, we had a chance to visit this morning. The men and women there, the men and women of organized labor, the unions. The work that happened here is extraordinary. And it really is a function of the will and the ambition of the workers on the ground who understood what closure of the 10 would mean for folks on a daily basis, and their commitment as public servants, as union members, to get this thing done. And you know, we can give the fancy speeches all day long, but we're able to stand here and do this because they did this work on the ground. In many cases, working as many as 14 hours a day, out of sheer commitment and a sense of duty and responsibility to deliver for the people of Los Angeles. So it's extraordinary work that happened here. And yes, Governor, Madam Mayor, the Senator, we all talked on a daily basis practically. And the estimates were that this was going to take a long time. There were some who said that a 3 to 4 week estimation was ambitious. But these folks, these people who work every day on this, who are experts, who understand the specifics, who understand the detail, they didn't listen to all that. They just did the work and they saw it through. And on behalf of President Biden and myself and our administration, we applaud this work. And this is the kind of work, frankly, that is happening around the country, where hardworking men and women, carpenters, laborers, city workers, county workers, government workers are rebuilding America. We have invested billions of dollars in rebuilding America's roads and bridges, lead pipes removal, what we are doing to ensure that all families have access and can afford high-speed internet. This is all about rebuilding America's infrastructure. And it has been a commitment of ours from day one. Many talked about doing it. You'll remember Infrastructure Week. By the way, it never happened.
Every week.
But what we have been able to accomplish is, for California alone, a $33 billion commitment to help build back up the infrastructure in our home state. We're looking at already over 1,100 projects underway in California because of the work and the commitment that Joe Biden and I and our administration have had to ensure that federal dollars come to states like California to do the work that must be done. And so I want to, again, applaud everybody. And then to all the Angelenos, I would just say this. Tomorrow, the commute is back on. And happy Thanksgiving. There's so much to be thankful for. You know, we're living in a world right now where it's heavy, and it's hard. And when we can have these moments to applaud the commitment of people to folks that they never meet, these workers, their commitment to the families and the individuals who need to pass this freeway every day, it's a moment to give thanks. for the folks who care, and to remember that we're all in this together. So thank you, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Here, here.
Okay, we were just hearing from some officials there, Vice President Kamala Harris, Governor Gavin Newsom, and LA Mayor Karen Bass, about the exciting news that the 10 freeway is set to reopen tonight and will be fully operational by Monday morning's commute. That is great news.
Yes, they said, here we go, on the week of Thanksgiving, the busiest travel week of the year. So there they are, shaking hands with a lot of those workers that worked effortlessly all throughout this week to get this back open. But one thing they did say is they did not rush through this. This was not a rush job. They wanted to make sure that everybody wasn't too worried about, wait a minute, you said this many weeks, but now it only happened in a week, right?
And something else we do want to mention is that there was an announcement that there will be temporary closures here and there just to make sure that they can get those permanent repairs on the 10 freeway. So just expect that there might be some overnight closures periodically.
Yeah, it was nice to hear the vice presidents talk about how we have a lot to be thankful for in LA with our traffic here. Let's go.
We need it open. Let's turn now to our weather. We have Shayla Girardin taking a look at the forecast. Beautiful shot behind you, Shayla.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you might notice in this shot is something all of us are going to be feeling out there today. That wind already starting to rustle the trees. So we're going to have some really breezy conditions out there, not only today, but the next couple days. Palmdale right now coming in 54 degrees. But